Welcome to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast, empowering you to take a whole person approach to your well-being, spirit, soul, and body. Join me, your host, Dr. Ana Lara, naturopathic doctor, entrepreneur, and a servant of Jesus Christ. We are not just a body, we are spirit and soul. It's time to integrate medicine and spirituality into our healing. Let's get started. Welcome to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ana Lara. Today, I know many of you will be watching this or listening to this on Christmas Day, and I want to talk about why so many people feel alone during this time, even when you are in a crowd of people, right? You can be surrounded by other people, and it's a very real thing that people will experience throughout the holiday season. It can happen starting right after Halloween. It can happen for some around Thanksgiving and definitely into Christmas and New Year's. So you're not alone in feeling alone. Let's talk about how to navigate the holidays through the loneliness. So, oftentimes when people bring this up in a conversation in my clinic, which is why I'm talking about this, they look like they're fine. They look like they're happy. They're going along with what everyone else is doing during the holiday season. And there's these expectations of what the holidays should look like. Everyone has them. And sometimes those expectations, impact other people and how they feel they need to present. So it might not be something negative necessarily, it might be your personality. But we're going to talk about, maybe there isn't something you need to fix in yourself. Maybe it's just something you need to surrender to, right? And be willing to feel what you're going through. But why loneliness hits harder around Christmas time? Loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's sometimes there's a gap in connection, the kind of connection that we want, and the connection that we are actually experiencing. So everyone connects differently. Everyone's needs are unique. And what my needs might be good for me in terms of connecting to other individuals, it's going to vary from me to you, right? Some people might be more introverted and want to be left alone. Some people are extroverted, want to really, go out and connect and socialize a lot more. But Christmas seems to magnify this gap in the kind of connection that we long for, that we need, that we desire. And here's why. One, expectations are sky high. Movies, social media, traditions that some of us may have around Christmas. It's supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to decorate. You're supposed to have a tree. You're supposed to do these things. And that might be true even in your own culture, but you might not connect to that. And we'll talk about specifics. So when reality doesn't match that picture of what you're expected for Christmas to look like, it can feel like something is wrong, right? Something is off. Something's off with you is typically how you feel. And, I grew up in, Hispanics have a lot of different Christmas traditions. And, growing up in this country, I did not really align with many of them. Besides the food, of course. We like the tamales and pozole and so forth. Yummy food, right? But there's just certain things that I wasn't really okay with. Even in America, how there's a lot of the gift giving, the Christmas tree, even as a kid, I know I'm odd. I didn't desire those things. And I didn't actually see that as a form of connecting. I would see all the kids opening their gifts almost as if I was from the outside looking in, just witnessing that experience, not being part of that experience. And I know that was just my personality. I am someone who would look more from the outside than be in the actual mix of what everyone else is doing. And so being this kind of person, you're most likely going to be witnessing, experiencing life. But then there's going to be questions that are going to come about, like, why do we do this? Yeah. 6, 7-year-old me was asking, why do we do this? Why do people give gifts to each other? It's not even their birthday. If Jesus was born I would go down the rabbit hole, right? If you get my drift where I'm going. So the expectations of what that holiday looked like growing up was a certain way. But even though I grew up in this home and this culture, it didn't align with me. So sometimes we can take it personal and think something's wrong with me because everyone else is enjoying themselves except me. And as we grow up, we realize, no, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just who I am. I don't need those things to feel a connection. Maybe my form of a connection is to sit across the table from someone and just have a real conversation, and not even needing to have food there, right? So that's one of the reasons expectations are too high. So you might want to analyze, what is your family life like? What was it growing up? What are some of the expectations that maybe other people put on you of what Christmas should look like or the holidays should look like? And then sit with yourself. What do I want this to look like for me? What's going to give me peace, not take peace away from me? The second thing is loss is also more visible. It's hard. This is the time that, you're going to see that empty chair where that loved one might have been seated, unsent cards or pictures that they're not going to be part of, or maybe you're looking at old pictures of, a previous holidays, traditions that don't feel the same anymore. That's a big one too. If someone was always putting up those lights and the Christmas tree and doing these things, they're no longer living and it just doesn't feel the same. That is normal. And so grief doesn't take holidays off, unfortunately. It actually kind of shows up during this time for many of you, and that's okay. And there is no time that grief really ends. It could be 20 years ago, 50 years ago, you're still going to think of those loved ones. Sometimes what happens is that we can carry that burden a little easier, right? But early on, that first time around the year, I'm sure some of you've lost people this year, and it makes it very difficult to move forward because Christmas comes along, and then the next week is New Year's. We start a new year, and we know that, wow, I am stepping into a new year without my loved one. And that's a realization that I had last year as we moved from 2024 to 2025. And, just allow yourself to feel that, to feel the loss and the grief, cry, be gentle on yourself. There is, like I said, grief doesn't take a holiday off, so no time off. It shows up when it shows up. The third thing is that comparison is everywhere. And this is very huge in women. I don't see this often personally anymore. Maybe as I'm getting older, women who are in their 40s and older just get a little bit more tired and they stop comparing what other women are doing for the holidays. Before it seemed like it was more of a competition. What are you doing? And we're doing this. And so they're trying to level up each other, right? So even if it's not with that intention, sometimes we might just be comparing ourselves to what someone else is doing and think, I'm not doing enough. I'm not creating this huge Christmas party or this environment that's warm and comforting when maybe you're grieving and you don't feel like doing any of that. So even if we logically know that social media is curating these and emotionally, it's still going to sting a little bit. So try not to compare yourself to what anyone else is doing. Give yourself permission to do what you feel is best for you and your family. Our routines are disrupted. This is like my number one pet peeve, kind of turning to a little anger and frustration, is that my routines are so disrupted, not just in my personal life, really, it's my business. And if my business is disrupted because of the holidays, it creates more work for me later on, right? Before or ahead or after the holidays. And then it sets things, off schedule, whether it's deliveries and companies that I purchase things from that are not being delivered on schedule because so many people are shopping online and everything's being delivered now. So this is going to throw off work schedule, sleep, eating patterns. My eating pattern has been really off this past month. And just everything changes, and those little things create a ripple effect, right? And can throw us off a little bit. So routines are often what quietly keep us grounded, believe it or not. If we have routines, that's what keeps us happy. So this is another reason why around the holidays, people get stressed and frustrated. but also they might feel like they're the only ones. I used to think I am the only one who does not like the holidays for different reasons. And so I used to be hard on myself because I thought people would call me the Grinch. Go ahead. And so I'm like, I am a Grinch. I don't like my routine being interrupted because it takes so much work to start those routines, to start those patterns, right? Your workout routine, your diet, your sleep patterns, your work patterns, all of those things throughout your day. And then guess what? After the holidays, everyone jumps on the New Year's resolution. Now you're trying to create the healthy patterns and those routines that we disrupted like just weeks before. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about that. But here, if any of this resonates with you, please hear this clearly. Your reaction makes sense if you want to pull away from the scene, right? I always say, take care of you. You don't have to justify your reasons to everyone, including family. So what loneliness is trying to tell you during this time, some things for you to ponder on is that loneliness isn't a personal failure. It's a signal. And it's your nervous system saying to you, I need safety, I need connection, I need to be seen. And so whether this is something from your childhood that's coming up, or maybe it is loss and grief and you just want to feel safe and but still have a connection, but maybe not in a large setting with many people. So instead of pushing loneliness away, what we can do is gently ask this part of ourselves, what am I missing right now? What kind of connection would feel most nourishing to me? Not just socially trying to impress people. Because sometimes we show up for others, but unfortunately we don't show up for ourselves. So are you going to genuinely show up to this family gathering or this event? Obviously, if it's your family, right? You're the mom and these are your children and your husband. You're going to show up. But there's nothing wrong in saying, we're just going to keep it on the smaller end. Last year, after my father passed away, we traditionally made tons of tamales, guys, all sorts of beautiful, delicious tamales and, different foods. And we didn't feel like it. Me and my mom didn't feel like doing any of that. And we were not wanting to have anyone over. I know it sounds terrible. We just wanted our peace. So what we did we made a few batch of tamales. And if you're Mexican, you know that a few is still many dozens. And so we made a few and we shared them with some family, but we just stayed home. We made some hot chocolate and just spent time there, not in a hurry to get dressed and go out somewhere to try to impress anyone. For us, this was a time that we were connecting and we were nourishing. Our spirit is what we needed. So sometimes the answer is not going to be a crowd. It's okay to give yourself permission to not go out in a crowd, and sometimes it's just needing one safe person to talk to connect. Especially if you're very introverted, you just need one safe person that you can connect with. Or even one moment or genuine presence, being with yourself. There's nothing wrong with that either. But don't, if you're feeling depressed, and really down, I wouldn't suggest staying alone. I would suggest getting out at least, even if it's for a short time, an hour, 2 hours that you're out and about. So here's some gentle ways that you will help you cope. Let's talk about what we can actually do, especially today and moving forward, and anytime really that you're in a social circle that you're not feeling, connected, that you feel alone, even when you're in the presence of many. We want to redefine connection, and connection doesn't have to mean this big gathering. It could be a phone call, it could be a voice note, it could be sitting in a cafe with a friend. It could be listening to a familiar podcast. Hello, this one. It could be being with your pets. Pets can bring actually a lot of comfort. They know when you feel alone too. They'll just kind of come sit by you. So anything small counts that's meaningful. So what does connection look like for you? It might be reading a book that helps you to fill your spirit. So you want to find out, what are the things that make me feel connected and grounded and happy in life, and do that. You can create this kind of soft structure for your day. Loneliness doesn't have to feel worse. Loneliness feels worse, if worse in empty and unstructured time. So if you don't have a structure of things to do, just kind of loosely, that can also, make you feel lonelier. So maybe you're invited to that Christmas party. Maybe show up for an hour and a half. Let them know, I'm going to go for a little bit. And then maybe before that, you plan to go for a walk, go to your party, go home, read a book, whatever it is. But anchor some activities in the morning, some in the afternoon, and then something that's a calming ritual for you in the evening. But be simple, gentle, and flexible. That's it. Speak kind to yourself. Sometimes we can be so harsh on ourselves. Like, why can't I fit in? Why am I not like them? Why can't I get into the Christmas spirit? They're all singing and being jolly and I'm not, right? So speak kindly to yourself. Just say, this is who I am. I acknowledge who I am and I love myself this way. Notice, what is that inner voice speaking to you today? If it sounds like I said, everyone else is happy but me. Try responding instead with, this is a hard day for me. And I'm allowed to feel how I feel. And self-compassion is going to be a form of emotional connection. Acknowledging your own needs is connection with yourself as well. And, there's going to be a lot of mixed emotions, right? They exist, they happen. You can feel grateful and then lonely. You can feel peaceful, but then feel sad. You can feel hopeful and then just feel tired, and you might just need to take a nap. So there's room for all of this. So you want to, reach out even briefly. You don't need the perfect words when you reach out to someone. You can just tell them, hey, I'm thinking of you today. Merry Christmas. It can be just enough to you try to make the attempt to reach out to someone. During COVID, so it was during 2020, we always hear of how the percentages of how many people out there are alone, like literally physically alone. Like they don't have family, they don't have friends, there's not much community for them. But it was during 2020, especially during the thick of it, when many people were getting sick. And I would do phone consultations or virtual consultations with people who were sick. And I would tell them the treatment protocol and tell them, do you have these items? If not, I have these in my office that I carry. And sometimes they were too sick to drive out to the office. And I would ask, is there anyone that can come by and pick him up? And they're like, no, I don't have family. I don't know anyone here. I'm alone. And I remembered hearing this pattern continuously for months and months. So yeah, I was their Uber, their delivery person. I would tell them, don't worry, just pay online and I'll drop him off and leave him at your door, the front door. And many of them were like, no, you don't have to do that. But then how else, would we get the medicine to them that they needed if they couldn't leave the house? And so it's these kind of connections. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this because we also, who do have family and friends and have large social circles, we need to acknowledge people in our lives that they really are alone. They don't have family. They don't have friends. And it's not because they're weird. It's just that there might be a little bit more introverted. Life happens. There's illness, so forth, disabilities. That, we might want to reach out to our neighbors. The scriptures do say, to love God with all our heart, all our mind, and all our soul, and to love our neighbors as we would love ourselves. And so those are the top 2 commandments that fulfill everything that's good in the world. So we should reach out intentionally to people who we know don't have anyone else. So just some reflections to, take on this Christmas day. Is to slow the pace. Slow the pace. It's okay. And wherever you are right now, I invite you to just take a gentle breath and place your hand on your chest if that feels comfortable to you. And ask yourself, as you close your eyes and just take a gentle breath, ask yourself, what do I need most in this moment? And really sit with that. What is it that you need most in this moment? Not what you should feel, not what today is supposed to be like, but what do you need most this moment? I know for me, it's always peace. Taking it easy, not rushing through the moment. Even if you are having a family gathering, slow it down. Stop the noise. You don't have to have loud music, maybe. Maybe have deep and meaningful conversations. Maybe start asking each other a question. What's something you're grateful for? What's the next you're looking for? Find genuine connection. Just this moment, for just this moment. And if the answer is rest for you, then rest. Because there's nothing wrong with resting on a holiday. Because if you want rest, you don't want distractions. You don't want to necessarily be filled with tears, or too much, chaos. You want to make sure that you remove the distractions and then you give yourself the quiet space to rest. And that's okay. So I hope that, I know many people, like I said, even with families, they still feel alone. And it's because there's not the connection there. And we're not defining, let's be honest, we don't have these conversations amongst family. Like, what's the best way that you'd like to feel seen, heard, and that you're connected? Like, what makes you feel truly connected? Even children. And I'll wrap up with this story. My 8-year-old daughter, yesterday, she asked me, she was sitting across the table from me. She asked me, Mama, what's wrong with me? And I thought, what do you mean, what's wrong with you? Yeah, tell me what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And I said, well, are you saying is something wrong with you physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually? Like, what are you referring to? And she's like, just tell me what's wrong with me. Why don't people want to talk to me? And those are very hard words to hear from your child. They really are. So children are feeling this. And this is an ongoing conversation that me and her and I have been having in the past year, because even though she's 8, she has a maturity level that's a little beyond her age, right? She has spiritual insight that's beyond her age. So at school with her peers, they might be around her. They're playing with her. I've seen her at times where they're at birthday parties and they're running around and they're playing. She's having fun. She's laughing. They're all screaming and running and chasing each other. And I'll ask her afterwards, did you have fun, baby girl? And she's like, no. I'm like, wait, I just saw you having fun, laughing. It was physically visible to me that she was enjoying herself, but she didn't feel a connection deep down. So when I started to talk to her, what does connection look like? What is that relationship? What does it mean to you for you to feel not alone? That she feels something is wrong with her. So I have to encourage her, like, nothing's wrong with you. You're just ahead of your time. And your desire for genuine, deep connection that's intellectual, it is amazing to see that in a young girl. And as she's saying that, I see myself in her. I'm like, that was me. I just didn't even have the vocabulary at the age that she's at. And she has the vocabulary to say how she feels. So I know that if children feel this way, and I talk to many children because I see children in my practice, I know that many adults feel the same way. We all have that inner child inside of us that doesn't feel like we were seen, we were heard, we were loved or acknowledged. And maybe that comes out in the holidays for you. And maybe it's time that you nurture that child. Maybe you should buy yourself a gift and whatever that little kid wanted in you, give yourself what that inner child wanted to have. What does that look like? Create it. Just because you didn't have it growing up doesn't mean you don't get the opportunity to create it. And give other people the flexibility, right, to also have their own ideas and concepts of what connection looks like. And so I really pray that people who do feel alone, reach out to someone. Let them know. I think they would be shocked to let them know, like, I feel alone during this time. How can I help get over this? But I'll tell you, I grew up in a big old family. And no matter how many people were around me, I still felt alone. And it's not a bad thing. I don't see it as a negative thing. It is difficult, though, I will say, when you lose a loved one and you're grieving that. So I will say, be gentle. Maybe just stay in your PJs and just watch some movies and spend it with your loved ones. So I hope you've had a happy Christmas, and that you've taken something that's real, right? This is something that's a real conversation that many people experience, not just during the holidays, but throughout the year. But during the holidays, it just seems to be right in our face, and we don't like it. And so maybe we just need to sit with, what is this loneliness teaching me right now? So until next time, guys, be blessed. Thank you for listening to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Help this message reach more people who may need to hear it. Leave your comments. I want to know what you think. If you're interested in learning more about Raíces, visit our website at raicesndmedcenter.com. Until next time, be blessed.